Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's NMeade here, and welcome back with more world record review, this time for August 2021. August brought 6 new world records across 4 unique tracks. Following the trend for the past several months, huge milestones were achieved in August. Let's get started. Starting on August 1st, we had a huge barrier broken on DS Delfino Square. Luke pressed onward with the shroomless dock shortcut, clocking in a massive time cut of almost 300 milliseconds. He is the first player to sub 2:04 on DS Delfino Square with a time of 2:03.799. The efforts implementing the shroomless dock shortcut started last month in July with Logan's first world record, followed by Luke answering back at the end of July. If you'd like to catch up with the beginning developments, I'd recommend watching that review video. For Luke, this is one of his most significant runs he has ever set. He comments only a month ago he would have never considered making the shroomless dock shortcut, let alone grinding it into his runs. Now here we are having the first 2:03 on DS Delfino Square with 2 shroomless dock shortcuts, with Luke pulling it off on laps 1 and 3. Luke says this had him out of his comfort zone, but the result was well worth it. Lap 1 was very good for Luke's standard, only being 5 milliseconds off of his personal best zone split at the time. It had a standard first half with a very good shroomless dock shortcut. He says it could have been faster, along with improving the turn into the shroom, as he had slight hesitation into this area for the shroom, which cost a bit on the exit. One of the issues that using the dock poses now is that if you drive too fast on lap 1, you are not able to get a double trick on the drawbridge. When the bridge is at a low position, you can only get a single flip trick. It means the ending section is a lot harder, in particular having the time to make the last wheelie into the last turn remain at full speed with utilizing the trick boost. I never would have imagined the day seeing that this would be an actual problem to face in real-time runs, but here we are now with that being a reality, with a shroomless dock being in runs now. Luke's previous world record had a lower trick than his newest record, which cost some time. Along with not going for the nosedive landing from the bridge, these factors cost a 41.1 being done for Luke on lap 1. Lap 2 was the weakest lap for Luke, but notes the vast majority of time loss would come from the lack of full chain wheelies, getting 2 full drop chain wheelies, which together lost close to 300 milliseconds on the straight alone. The driving was very good throughout the lap regardless to help make up lost time, and although the bridge trick could have been lower, the ending was still very solid for Luke. Arriving to lap 3, Luke says it is sort of in between laps 1 and 2 in regards to overall strength. He knows the biggest time loss was missing the first chain wheelie, losing around 160 to 170 milliseconds. Watching the deficit here versus his previous world record, his remaining option was going for a second shroomless dock, and he was successful in doing just that. The shroomless dock lap 3 was very good for Luke, having a good angle upon landing, but says he slowed down slightly too much. Regardless, it was still as good as lap 1 according to Luke, and saved the massive amount of time to secure DS Delfino Square's first 2:03 run. The last turn lost quite a bit for Luke due to timing the hop too late, and feels this likely cost around a mid 2:03.7 run, but he's not complaining. A small but important detail is this track's final turn. You're going up a slope until the road goes flat again. The strategy here is to time a hop perfectly, where when you land flat and start turning right for your drift, you land flush with a flat top road. Landing too early means you land on the upward slope and get a harder and slower last turn. Hopping too late, like in Luke's case here, results in a time loss with a worse last turn drift from landing on the flat top road too late. I'd say this is one of the more underrated areas of the track for time trials and can be the source of many painful fails, especially at the top tier level of these runs now. Summarizing this run for Luke, it started out like any other attempt. Nailing the lap 1 dock, he felt some nerves, but knows this is pretty normal and he has controlled nerves of that level many times before. The double drop chain wheelies on lap 2 helped in this respect as well, and enabled him to drive a very good lap 2 despite the bad chain wheelies. Luke says that entering lap 3, he knew that even with a double chain wheelie straight, that he would be behind his previous record. When he got the first drop wheelie, he knew immediately he had to go for the shroomless stock shortcut to salvage the run, noting he knew he was 200 milliseconds behind his former run, which he wouldn't be able to make up with just driving alone. He did not expect to make it looking back at it, so his nerves skyrocketed after the mushroom lap 3. At this point in the run, Luke knew this would be a 2 of 3 run if he had just held himself together, which thankfully he was able to do so. This run is huge for Luke, being his 79th overall world record in the game. He recently passed Cole for the crown of the most world records set in the game, adding another milestone achievement to his time trial resume. In addition, this run is the biggest time cut on the track since May 2008, in combination with being the first 203 run here. Luke says ever since he had a 204.7 here back in November 2017, he knew he had potential for something huge even without the shroomless stock shortcut. And with Logan getting the world record with the shroomless stock, it motivated him to implement it himself, since he knew his driving advantage here would allow him to pull off something of this caliber one day. And here we are now with Luke's 2 for 3 shroomless stock world record, which is noteworthy for being only Luke's second time ever trying for a 2 for 3 dock run. He says he will probably come back in the future to improve this 2 for 3 run to at least a 203.5. Luke says a very good 2 for 3 run will end up being around a 203.3, and a good 3 for 3 run will end up being possibly as low as a 202.9 if everything goes well, but says a 3 for 3 will be ridiculously hard to grind for both practically and mentally. What an exciting past 2 months it has been for this track. The benchmark for top tier DS Delfino Square gameplay in human runs has forever been advanced, with not only requiring one shroomless dock, but essentially mandating a 2 for 3 shroomless dock run be achieved to have any further improvements here. It goes without saying how impressive of a feat this was with all things considered, landing this track's first 203 run by such a large margin. Hearing the intent to eventually come back here to improve this further is motivating and inspiring, not settling for just this time cut, but acknowledging the areas for time saved and the desire to push this further. Big congrats to you, Luke, on this massive world record, and good luck to you in the future when you eventually revisit this track. Now we head over to some Mario Raceway for several improvements during August. Also on August 1st, the world record spree by Sosis would commence. An improvement of 5 milliseconds would be a new world record of 141.330, beating his previous world record set close to 1 year ago. 10 days later, on August 11th, Sosis had a little bit bigger of a time cut of 27 milliseconds, with a time of 141.303. And 3 days later, on August 14th, Sosis would land a massive run on this track, improving by 105 milliseconds, skipping 141.2 directly to the first 141.1 on Mario Raceway, a 141.198. Sosis pulled through on this track big time back in September 2020, beating Yasha's last remaining world record, which stood for over 500 days. The old 141.335 world record by Sosis was the finishing result of many months of grinding here with some of the biggest fails on the track, and setting incredibly impressive best known splits in the process. His activity during August would reward all of his previous efforts, with the end result of a massively impressive ending world record at present of his 141.198. A really cool occurrence happened with both his 141.330 and 141.198 runs, where his laps 2 and 3 in both runs were exactly 1 millisecond off of tying in each run. Always cool to see stuff like that happen in these runs. The topic of conversation would be most notable between the last 2 world records Sosis hit during August. Sosis had a very strong pace into lap 3 in his 303 run, but was even faster in his 198 run, leading the race by 56 milliseconds into lap 3. Sosis would lose this lead over his prior 303 run over the course of most of lap 3, to the point of being literally almost even into the notorious run enders of Raceway, the double pipe tricks. These are known for being very difficult to optimize for higher tier time trials. You're trying to get as quick of a trick as possible for each one to be in a wheelie for as long as possible, utilizing the trick boost as best as you can to save time. Alongside this, the alignment into the second one is most crucial, as if you get a perfect first trick, it may not even matter if you're aligned too far left, needing to wheelie turn hard right and losing most of your time gain. Heading into the final trick, this can go so wrong and either be a complete run ender or simply lose a ton of time. The latter was the case in his 141.303 run, which really could have been, at the very least, a low 141.2 looking at this comparison, but unfortunately had a poor last pipe trick and the wheelie sending him out wide before the last turn. It may be hard to appreciate just how much this small maneuver can cost at this level of time trials, but when comparing it like this, the time loss and eventually time gain in the case of his 141.198 run is very evident. Sosis pulls off the most clutch, near perfect ending to his lap 3 to secure what was still a very solid lap 3 of a 33.697 to solidify the first 141.1 on Mario Raceway. This is the first time a 33.6 lap has been hit in a lap 3 of a world record here, and moreover the first time a 33.6 lap has been hit on both laps 2 and 3 of a world record here. And we of course have to shout out his lap 1, as despite having a missed wheelie for the final pipe trick, lap 1 was still a massive 33.805, also being the fastest lap 1 driven in a world record here thus far. Sosis says he is happy he finally got a run with a solid lap 3. He comments there was always something that went wrong lap 3 during his runs, but this time around there weren't any major mistakes, just a few driving errors here and there. As of today's upload date, miraculously enough, the best known splits give a time of 1:40.999. Sosis says he still feels like he has way more left here, with the visible driving errors in this run making him believe a 140 is definitely achievable in the future. It will be a formidable task for sure, but he thinks that he is up for it when the time comes. I could never really imagine a 140 being done humanly as being the faintest way possible years ago. I personally wrote off that possibility back even when this record was in the 141.5 to 0.6 territory. However, with his run, combined with the laps he pulled and his confidence to one day hit that target, there are no doubts he could do that when he decides to come back for that grind. He has already solidified his fortitude with truly exceeding standards for tracks with pushing his current world records like Moo Moo Meadows, N64 Sherbet Land, and now N64 Mario Raceway. I wanted to ask him how the grind was on this track compared to other tracks he has grinded for, as I at least felt that this track and SNES Ghost Valley 2 would have been the more taxing times to grind for compared to the other tracks. Sosis shares that this wasn't that taxing, especially the second time around now with his 3 improvements this month, compared to getting the record here for the very first time, which took him months to get the record. Sosis says that he had better knowledge on how to get the slip drift after the mushroom and the pipe tricks more consistently now, so it was a lot easier to improve here this time around. Always interesting to hear the mentality and the backstory behind these grinds at this level of gameplay. Right now, if Sosis were to never touch this again, this is by far one of the strongest world records standing in the game with how difficult it is to optimize this track now with where it's at. I feel that Vincent put this nicely in a comment he left on his record, commenting, "I feel like it's difficult to appreciate how insane this time actually is. With how inconsistent everything can be, achieving this level of speed and consistency is absolutely nuts. Only thing beating this is Daisy Task Cut or Sosis himself, otherwise a 1500 plus day record right here." I couldn't agree more with this. This is such a massively impressive world record and you should be very proud of yourself with this huge progress, Sosis. Big congrats to you, and if and when you return here equipped for the task of potentially pushing the human limits even further towards a 140, the best of luck on your attempts when that time comes. Later in August, Logan would have another improvement on Toad's Factory shortcut, improving upon his previous world record set back in May. On August 20th, Logan has a time cut of 45 milliseconds, with a time of 1:44.420. As you all may recall from last month's video, Logan is currently on a quest to become the first player to set at least one world record in every month of the year. This world record during August solidified 8 out of 12 months straight that Logan set at least one world record. Logan shares his primary objective here was to secure the 8 for 12 month streak with improving this record, noting it is actually one of his weaker categories with the current records he holds. Kind of insane to even call this one of his weaker categories, while he is still currently almost a full 700 milliseconds ahead of second place here, and still pushing the limits here with where the category is at right now. Logan thinks a 1:43 is realistic with 2 good shroomless shortcuts on laps 2 and 3, along with 2 good low jumps on laps 2 and 3, and a perfect chain wheelie on lap 3. It'll all come down to just containing nerves after landing any 2 for 3 run at this point for Logan. That is pretty insane to hear, considering how the current best zone splits are only 19 milliseconds off of his newest run here. However, with not being able to complete lap 2 or lap 3s here that often in this category specifically, there is surely room for improvement with Logan's comments here. All these small details will be the difference makers as we discussed in previous months, even for both categories of Toad's Factory. Logan's record this month was actually trailing slightly behind his 4.65 world record after getting a worse chain wheelie on the straight at the crates, but gets a much better low jump to secure an almost 50 millisecond improvement. I think we should definitely expect more activity on this category by Logan in the coming months for sure. Logan presses on into the last 4 months of 2021 to try and seal the 12 for 12 month streak in the year of setting at least one world record, and is definitely equipped for the task. Congrats for your continued diligence with your grinds, Logan, and best of luck on your future attempts. Ending the world record activity for August, literally on the last day, August 31st, we come back to Rainbow Road. After so many years, Japanese player Kaede makes his epic return to Rainbow Road. He beats Flair's previous world record by 15 milliseconds with a time of 2:24.665. Kaede has his roots in the Rainbow Road world record history years ago, first arriving on the scene in March 2015 with his first world record here. He would trade hands multiple times with Ando from 2015 to 2016, where Kaede ultimately pulled off Rainbow Road's first 2:24 no glitch time in February of 2016. Fast forward to January 2019, Bob set his first overall world record on Rainbow Road, dethroning Kaede's 1,000 plus day old world record. Kaede hasn't been on the scene since then for close to 3 years. It appears he only recently came back onto the scene as of the past 2-ish months or so, uploading several improvements to his YouTube channel and updates on his Twitter. It seemed like in the last 2 weeks before Kaede set his 2:24.665, almost every day Kaede was posting these massive paces failing lap 3, alongside huge PB progress to a 2:24.696 in mid-August, which actually would have beaten Flair's 2:24.698 had he not improved to a 2:24.680 at the end of July. It only seemed like any day that Kaede would pull through, and he did just that on the last day of August. Kaede's tweet with his new record was fun to have translated with handy Google Translate as always, reading, "World record, return of the Rainbow Road legend. Thank you to everyone who has supported me so far. I will do my best to reach even higher levels." It is always really exciting to see some of the old greats of the game return and tackle their old tracks, embarking on a path back to the top and ultimately succeeding in doing just that. Clearly, it looks like he has further plans to try and continue to push the limits of Rainbow Road, definitely with big potential to see an exciting world record exchange between Flair and Kaede. Flair's previous world record was the best known pace going into lap 3, which unfortunately had the biggest mistakes of the turn following the shortcut, missing the first wave trick, and missing the pole bounce at the jackstrap. He did suffer some time loss versus Flair after the cannon on the half-pipe turn, and both were neck and neck into the very end of the race. Kaede was able to do enough to solidify the improvement here in his first world record run driven here since his last 2:24.994, driven way back in February of 2016. Huge congratulations to you, Kaede, for making such an epic return in such quick fashion after all these years. I think we are all very excited to see what the world record exchange between you and Flair can be here in the following months. Best of luck on your continued efforts on Rainbow Road. And with that, the 8th month of 2021 Mario Kart Wii Time Trials is in the books. 68 world records were set in the first 8 months of 2021 thus far. 2021 continues to bring many awesome moments for the Mario Kart Wii Time Trials scene. I look forward to how the last 4 months of the year shape up. The past 3 years we have had over 100 world records set per year. To reach that 4 years in a row, we would need to set at least 32 world records in the last 4 months of the year. Anything is possible in this game with activity from what we have seen in years past. I hope you all continue to join along the journey with me as we review the activity month by month, highlighting and celebrating our community's greatest accomplishments. I will see you all very soon to review the world record activity for September 2021. Take care.